Supermoon has arrived. This video, I'm going to tier rank the different modules, or I guess components, that are in this expansion and ultimately tell you, is it worth your money? At least from my perspective, but hopefully I give you enough information that you can make up that decision for yourself. No reason for a big diatribe. Let's just jump right into it. I guess we'll attack the modules. There are 3 of which, and then there is a fractured planet incorporation. But we're going to start with module 3 and its terrain patches. In current base game, there's the idea of these biomass patches. You go up the green track, whatever track that is called, and as you get to the patch spots, you gain these little patches, and of course they make up for all of your follies, all of your inefficiencies. They are 1x1 squares that you can throw out on the board. You can gain technologies to be able to hold them off, but otherwise they've got to go on your board immediately. In this little module, it gives you a square of each terrain type, and anytime you gain a biomass patch, you gain this square. Pretty straightforward. These patches don't increase your resource trackers. In my opinion, this is a C tier addition. I really don't care about them. I guess we'll play with them if I remember to pull them out. They weren't that big of a game changer for me. They certainly, I guess, helped if you're trying to extend a terrain type, but overall, they weren't particularly impactful. Similarly, you can add more tiles. They're salvage tiles. They are 1x2, so 2 square pieces. And anytime you are to draft a tile from the Susan, you can instead place 2 of these. You get a full set of all terrain. They do have resource symbols on them, so they actually do increase your resource track, which is nice, makes them slightly more useful in my mind than the terrain patches. They also come with asteroids on them, so beware. Doesn't add a ton strategically, gives you a little more flexibility, making the game maybe slightly easier. The balance to that is they all have asteroid spots on them. I'm going to call this one's kind of in between for me, and it being a C tier. I could take it or leave it. I think it's slightly above the terrain patches. Regardless, this isn't really what this expansion is built on, thankfully, because they're not that great. Module number 1 is Supermoon, and we're going to push that aside. We will actually deal with that one at the very end. However, we get a fractured planet. It's just one fractured planet. A fractured planet is 4 different tiles. They basically act as 4 separate planets. They work differently than the Supermoon. The key component here is that each quadrant has a restriction on it, really adding to the crunch. I mean, it sort of helps you to kind of directionally figure out what you should be looking at or what quadrant you should be looking at, or at least eliminates one of them. They still work as a normal planet. You have to start on the perimeter and still deal with the adjacencies. They also have these little space shuttle spots. That's where your rover can essentially jump from one quadrant to the next. Be careful though, because if you cover those, your rover is stuck. It can't go anywhere. And there's 4 quadrants, 2 rovers. What are you going to do? It also scores differently. No longer do you have this scale of scoring on the side. Every single row and every single column is worth 1 point. The difference being is you're trying to fill up each quadrant individually. Filling up a row on one quadrant doesn't affect the other one. That's why they're all 1 point in both directions. It still adds up to 40 points, just like any other map. But I found this an incredible addition. This is super close to S tier, but I'm going to put it in A tier. And the only reason I do that is because I want this as a mode where everybody can have these 4 quadrants. I felt like it was such a different game, and especially when you add in Supermoon, almost a full point higher from like a weight perspective would I add when playing these. I sat there and I stared at these 4 different quadrants, trying to figure out where the heck am I going to place my next tile. That added with Supermoon, which we'll get to, like I said, in just a second, made this one of the most complex experiences I've had in Planet Unknown. Next up is Fractured Corporation. So this one comes with 2 boards. Once again, it's only for 1 player. It's just an alternate way to deal with a corporation or playing a corporation. Each board is double-sided and interchangeable. Each top of board has a condition, and the condition is whether you draft a tile from inside Circle Susan or outside Circle Susan. And then the bottom part has 2 different conditions, one in which lets you regress one of your resource tracks, of course allowing you to double collect on whatever the benefit is, or only take one of the terrain types that you placed and increase its track by 2. Each of these boards have different tech, their combination of which affecting the game differently. Of course, just like any other corporation, those techs kind of will change how you will play. I thought this was an interesting idea. I didn't necessarily feel like it added a ton to the game by deciding where I'm going to actually draft my tile from. I'd call this kind of B, A tier. I know I'm straddling lines here, but it's probably closer to a B tier for me. It's not a huge game changer once again, because only one person can actually use this. While the first 2 modules we talked about really are relevant everywhere, what holds these back, which aren't technical modules, they're just kind of expansions on what is already in the base game. It holds it back by only allowing one player to actually utilize them at any given time. And then there's Supermoon. Supermoon, the namesake of this expansion. So it's basically you have your own personal moon off to the side. You also have a satellite, and there's satellite spots that go all around this little planet. And that satellite moves each and every time you place a tile on your moon, the number of times equal to the squares of the piece that you just placed. In the corner spaces, you can face your satellite in a couple different ways. On the side spaces, it can only go one way, and it will destroy every single meteor that's in its line of sight. That laser just shoots right through them, and they're gone. That's important because those meteors are -3 points at the end of the game. You don't like meteors whatsoever. You can also put a rover on that planet as well, but that's one less rover on your giant planet right next to you. And you do have a new scoring opportunity with this moon. You're either trying to collect sets of 2 different symbols for 4 points per set. Those are specific to that side of the moon. That's asymmetric. If you play the asymmetric side, everyone will have a different set. Or there's the symmetric side where everyone's trying to collect a set of all 6 different symbols for 8 points. I've heard some say that the Supermoon makes it slightly easier. It sort of does, in that it gives you a separate repository to place tiles when maybe they're not working out for you on the other side. It gives you a little leeway. It extends the game a little bit, but I found that the crunch added in the other aspects outweighed the fact that this is another area for you to kind of overflow and place pieces that might not work for your planet. You're trying to do the math on where exactly you want your laser to shoot and knock out as many asteroids as possible. You're also trying to do the math on, do I place a tile there that actually has an asteroid on it? Will I be able to get to it? Because -3 points is nothing to sneeze at. And then you're also trying to collect the right symbols. That added with whatever's going on with your corporation and the other board. Play that, by the way, with your fractured corporation and fractured planet, and you are in probably for the heaviest experience that you can possibly get in Planet Unknown. With all of that said, where does it lie in the scheme of all of these other little things that are coming with this? I think I will always play with it. There's no reason not to play with it, unless, of course, you want maybe a shorter game. I think it probably is solidly in the A tier for me. I like that it adds a little bit of crunch. It's nothing completely game-changing, but it's something I absolutely appreciate. I'm happy it's there. So in review, we have a few A tier additions here, some B's and C's, nothing quite S. So do I recommend this expansion? Yeah, I mean, if you love Planet Unknown, absolutely get it. Like, if this is your favorite polyomino game, which I know it is for many of you sitting out there, yeah, I think this is probably a must-own in the end. If you're just getting Planet Unknown, do you need it? Absolutely not. Like, I definitely don't think you need it. There's so much in the original box. There's so much variety in the different corporations and the different planets on the asymmetric sides that I think there's tons to play there and not necessarily need to go out and grab this. But if Adam's Apple, if you came out with a Fractured Planet expansion where everyone gets to play with fractured planets, and then we introduce even more asymmetry on those, continuing to make each and every quadrant asymmetric, that would be awesome. And that's it. That is Supermoon in my eyes. I think it's pretty good. I think it's not insanely good. I think if you are a veteran and you want more, you should probably get it. If you're new, you should probably not. Just go get the base game. With all of that said, thank you very much for being here. Have yourself a great day.